There is something about open-world games that just fuel a sense of exploration and adventure that linear games can't even compare to. However, that doesn't mean there's a unanimous audience for these games, since for some, these games are too big. Exploration is one of the most fun components in adventure games, and thankfully, some games manage to incorporate this adventure without having a map larger than the game itself. These games aren't quite linear, but they aren't outright open world either. These games, dubbed semi-open world, offer a vast world to look around and soak in, but not so large that players will become lost or overwhelmed. These semi-open world games are the perfect Goldilocks of adventure for players who want to stay on track but want to go off the beaten path every once in a while.
The Dragon Age games are some of the most infamous in the RPG sphere, with Dragon Age Inquisition in particular being one of the best in the franchise. It was Game of the Year in 2014 after all, often referred to as one of BioWare's greatest hits. Dragon Age Inquisition isn't an open world in the traditional sense, as it's not one massive world where players can go anywhere. The map is connected by several large regions that players are able to explore in the two different countries that the game takes place in. Players aren't able to run around doing whatever they want in whatever order they want, as there is an overall structure in each area and in the massive main story. Instead of being able to travel between cities, each region is more of a true lived-in RPG that's rich in opportunity, one that's cozy enough for players to revisit again and again. While many players will consider it an open world at first glance, it's not until you play that you realize that the formula is just different enough to not qualify. This formula simply keeps the adventure contained. After splitting from the Stalker development team, 4A Games utilized their post-apocalyptic inspiration to create a new horror series, Metro, with Metro Exodus being considered the best in the franchise by far. Metro Exodus is a semi-open world in the purest sense, with some levels, 6 specifically, being strictly linear and others being open and able to be explored. Plus, as it switched to a survival shooter rather than horror, it ended up reinventing the entire franchise with its grim depictions of staying alive. In the open world areas, your gun is your lifeline, and every single bullet in your arsenal is assigned with a Suarot's name, so it's important to keep your weapons in top shape. This isn't even considering how you can make the game significantly harder with the Ranger Hardcore full dive mode, an insane setting for an insane survival experience. This is an excellent game for those who want heavily linear storytelling with ample amount of exploration to make up for the lost time. The Dishonored games are a unique approach to being a stealthy assassin, with Dishonored 2 hosting different levels providing different maps for players, and these areas can be explored but only within this level. The maps, firstly, are far more vertical, with you sneaking or fighting through different apartment buildings and working your way up multiple stories. These stealth missions are dense, immersive, and fun in every moment of gameplay, regardless of how the player approaches the level. That said, you can only truly explore while in the area, unable to backtrack or skip ahead like what you would be able to in traditional open-world games. The steampunk world of Dunwall is full of secrets to uncover, but players will only be able to find them in their designated spots, not while out and about. So, for the series beginners and in the stealth genre as a whole, just keep in mind that once you progress, that's it. So do everything you want to do before you move on. While it is easy to think that the Yakuza Like a Dragon series are open-world games, most of them actually aren't. The games are semi-open, keeping players confined to Tokyo, mostly in the Komodo-cho district, which is supposed to be based on the real location of Kabukicho. And as someone who has actually been to Tokyo, including Kabukicho, it's identical, even down to the constant chorus of Don Quixote playing on the loudspeakers. The Yakuza developers clearly know what they're doing when it comes to representing Japan. The world design is just
excellent in these games, and considering how massive Tokyo is, it leaves tons of time for free-reign exploration. Thankfully, though, you're not going through the entirety of Tokyo, because that's something you'll need several months to dedicate your time to. For reference, I was there for a week, and I didn't even get to experience a full 1% of the city in that time frame. It's gargantuan. Because of the game's story, characters, setting, and literally everything else surrounding it, it's ideal to play the games in their native language of Japanese to really make players feel like they're walking through the alleys of Tokyo. That is, until you get up to some absolutely insane, wacky hijinks, and then you remember you're playing a Yakuza game. Stealing, obviously, is wrong, and illegal to do literally everywhere, which is probably why the Thief games are as popular and beloved as they are, allowing players to indulge in the sticky-fingered taboo. You play as Garrett, a master sneak thief, as he gets roped up in a situation that's larger than himself, but he still has rent to pay after all. You end up breaking into all kinds of homes, businesses, and other establishments and loot everything that isn't nailed down, with greater upgrades and rewards the more money you accumulate. The only thing to consider is that this isn't a traditional open-world stealth game, as it's not fully open world. Rather, the world is open during each chapter, locking players out once they choose to progress forward. For example, this means if a player progresses to Chapter 3, they will not be able to backtrack to reap any of the benefits of Chapter 2, forcing players to be thorough immediately. That being said, you can take as much time as you want in each chapter, and even in some missions within those chapters. Players just have to be attentive to their surroundings and exploit every opportunity that they're presented with. The 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider did more than just successfully revive the franchise, but it also brought so much more exploration than the classic games could manage. The game, as well as the rest of the reboot trilogy, is incredibly linear, with the iconic protagonist Lara Croft wrecking onto the island of Yamatai, which is discovered to be a lost kingdom of feudal Japan. As you explore and try to keep yourself from dying around every corner, you learn the secrets of the land and watch as Lara slowly shifts into the Tomb Raider we all know and love. There is one additional treat, too. After you beat the game, the map becomes fully open and explorable, so you can gather all the collectibles you want to hunt down. It's similar to Arkham Asylum in that regard. On the one hand, the official Star Wars site claims that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is an open-world game, the first in all the Star Wars games, actually. But once you sit down and actually play it, you'll realize that the open world is not really open. It's better to approach the game with the understanding that it's an incredibly story-driven CRPG, but it offers so much free-reign exploration that it ends up giving the illusion of an open world wonderfully. Additionally, with the endless roleplay opportunities, it fills the world with so much life, players won't realize it's actually a semi-open world. You can see the seeds of an open-world game being planted in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and despite the small scale, the creative ingenuity to get around technological limitations ends up making the game technically open-world, which is honestly impressive. While it takes skill to make something, it takes even more skill to make an illusion. While the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is still in development, players are excited and left wondering if the world is genuinely going to open up more, or if it'll offer similar exploration to the classics. Say whatever you want about Control, but it's a genuinely cool game, weird and unique in all the best ways. Developed by Remedy Entertainment, the game has you playing as Jesse Faden, the new director of the Federal Bureau of Control, which includes various supernatural beings to study. The environment is massive and explorable, but it's not an open world. It's just absolutely massive, so it's easy to see where that confusion stems from. Its endless corridors will have players lost like it's an open world, that's for sure. The game follows a heavy Metroidvania format, with an emphasis on puzzles, details, and all other delights within an adventure.
The best thing is, a recent free patch now allows the game to be played on PC, with it being additionally released to the current generation of consoles here soon. Oh, and it includes a Hideo Kojima cameo. The God of War games like to follow a semi-linear, semi-open structure in their games, and the modern God of War games follow that exact structure of designated pathways. Each area connects with each other, but they're treated separately, distinctly so. The Norse mythology games are a near 50-50 blend of linear and open world, and it's honestly wonderful for both players and for Kratos and his story. After being doomed by the fates in true Greek mythology fashion, the game has you going through each deity in their respective pantheon and wiping them off the map. You have to go through a region in a linear quest first before you're allowed to explore it. Even then, there are set pathways in these regions, preventing it from being a fully open world, regardless of which European folklore is being represented. Either way, players are going to be blown away by the experiences they encounter in this series, and they'll end up becoming more wrapped up in the story than the exploration anyway. Perhaps the best example of a semi-open world game easily is Hitman. You play the iconic assassin, Agent 47, as he's assigned multiple different targets he has to eliminate, and you can do so by any means necessary. The games have you traveling all around the world for each target, but you're confined to those levels exclusively. You can explore the levels however you need, put on any costume, and use any weapon at your disposal. The opportunities are endless, however, only in the area. Hitman is a semi-open world game in the purest sense, giving the player countless different resources and avenues for their takedowns, but they're limited to what the level is able to provide. That being said, this leads to some equally creative outcomes, such as an entire town being taken out only armed with a rolled-up newspaper. So long as players complete the mission, it doesn't matter how they approach the area and what exactly they do. The only true rule is don't get caught.